heavily scrutinized by this white supremacist regime. Greensboro has never been exempted from the logic of white supremacy and racial capitalism. In fact, Greensboro exemplifies it. In the black community, even before COVID, we suffered from epidemics of unemployment, malnourishment, houselessness, mass incarceration, and pig brutality. We have seen time and time again, Greensboro breaks black bodies and profits from black despair. We have been victims of a politically abusive relationship, and City Council has been an active participant along with the financiers, real estate developers, and venture capitalists, and most notably, the Greensboro Police Department. We are done asking for our Black Lives to Matter. Greensboro has had 212 years to get its act together. When we asked for Greensboro to give the Smith family justice, they responded by gaslighting the family and allowing Chief Wayne Scott to retire with dignity and a pension paid for by us. Oh, 6 of the 8 pigs who murdered Marcus Smith walked the beat with a badge and a gun today. 2 were able to retire quietly. When we asked for our Black Lives to Matter in June, after George Floyd was murdered, Greensboro responded with riot shields, nightsticks, tear gas, which is a chemical weapon, by the way, and hollow points. We aren't asking for justice. We aren't asking for rights. The city isn't in a position to give us what is rightfully ours. No, we are going to take what is ours if the city doesn't give it freely. When we realize that there is more power in the people than there are people in power, we can make something change. When we realize there is more power in the people than there are people in power, we can make something change. It is said that we perish from a lack of knowledge. We cannot keep misunderstanding what institutions were made for our collective construction and what institutions were made for our collective destruction. Listen, and this is going to be unpopular, but I'll say it anyway. Chief Brian L. James is a black face in a high place. The Greensboro pigs are irredeemably racist and brutal. We cannot reform the GPD. The GPD is the reform of the slave patrols. What do we look like giving slave masters sensitivity training and ethical whip deployment techniques? You can't do it. Just like my brother, you can't do it. The pigs harass, brutalize, murder us without consequences, but the Greensboro City Council can only lavish extra praises and extra funding to that pig pen at our expense. The tears of black mothers keep grass green in Greensboro's graveyards, and the legacy of Greensboro's racism has made sure the soil is extra fertile under the city's shadiest oak trees since 1808. The pigs aren't our friends. We must learn the difference between an enemy and a comrade. We must be able to tell the difference between someone smiling at us because they see us through friendly eyes and someone smiling at us because they got us in their crosshairs. Don't mistake these pigs for a present help in a time of trouble. Their allegiance isn't to you. It's to the wealthy people who own all the land and the private property in Greensboro and donate the big bucks to those pig enablers sitting on city council. We know the game already. That's why we aren't impressed by city council's meaningless symbolic gestures to black people. How many times can we paint the street?
Let's talk about it.
When the council members block necessary investments in black neighborhoods, but gives expensive Negro-killing toys to the pigs.
That part.
We aren't impressed by kneeling cops. We aren't impressed by dancing cops, or cops who take selfies with the establishment-approved so-called activists. How do y'all get a permit to march down the street before we figure out when the body was finally cold? Okay, y'all ain't feeling it. Oh no, we don't hand out bottles of water to the pigs. We tell them to march back to 100 East Police Plaza and take a sip from the department's water fountain if they're dying of thirst. Or, since they're pigs, they can roll around in mud like their kind has been known to do, because we know from the case of Marcus Deon Smith, the pigs love to play dirty. The pigs do these meaningless gestures not only to insult our intelligence, but to weaken our resistance.
Right.
They want us to forget about their constant occupation and our constant oppression.
Right.
These pigs do not treat us with kindness because they see our humanity. They treat us with kindness because they have been instructed to do so as a PR stunt while the local media has its cameras out. But what happens when those cameras go on? Do not be fooled. The same colonizer who treated you like a beast yesterday hasn't changed their mind about who you are overnight.
Right.
Don't be so psychologically starved for your colonizer's affection that you start wagging your tail like a starved puppy the second you're given table scraps and a pat on the head.
Right. Right.
If the colonizer ever treated you like a beast, show them your bite is worse than your bark.
Say that.
We aren't asking for an end to police violence. Together, we will bring an end to police violence.
That's right. Right.
These systems have profited from black labor and black death since this country was founded.
Right.
We must destroy, rebuild, and create
Right.
to bring about a finale to the black American horror story. For black people to be liberated, and this may be controversial, but I'll say it anyway,
Hey.
the police must be abolished.
Hey.
Why does he say that? Why does he say that? Because slavery was never abolished, it was reformed. It was the 13th Amendment that said abolish slavery except as punishment for a crime. And what do we have today? Plantations and plantations and plantations full of black people, and they're called prisons.
Come on.
And the best these establishment politicians can do is to promise you that we're going to end private prisons, which only make up 8% of the entire prison population. So they want to keep the 92% of us in prison and only want to give us table scraps. Do not wag your tail like a starved puppy when they give you table scraps.
Say that.
And it's not even biting the hand that feeds you, because they never fed you in the first place. We must dismantle, defund, and abolish the police. And people who think this is a radical demand would probably have said, well, we don't need to get rid of slavery. We just need to give better training to the slave masters.
Right.
We just need to teach them how to be kinder to their slaves. We can have slavery reform. I don't want slavery reform anymore. Why do we need police at this point? Most of the problems that we have in our communities is not because we don't have enough police. We throw more money at the police.
Right.
It's because we don't have resources in our community. We don't have community centers.
Right.
We don't have mental health clinics.
Right.
We don't have hospitals.
Right.
And I'll tell you one thing, if white neighborhoods had the same problem with crime as we did, they still would not tolerate the type of occupation, colonial occupation, that we are subjected to as black people. It doesn't matter how much crime white people have to face. They wouldn't do it. Have you ever tried to take something from a white community?
Right.
How well did that go?
Hey.
It doesn't happen very well. I'm getting off topic. Let's redirect our righteous anger toward creating our own institutions that address the needs of the people within our own communities. Let's redirect our energy away from depending on the police and the politicians for our salvation. Our salvation isn't in being indebted to our oppressors. Our salvation is in being in solidarity with each other. Thank you.